Hello everyone. I wanted to use this video time as a sort of hybrid combination of the State of the Union or State of the Congregation address, if you will, as well as a stewardship emphasis and a forward glance of our ministry together. Back in March of 2019, our Lenten theme was the wilderness. And while Lent and Easter have come and gone a couple of times now, there are a lot of things about our world and our lives today in which we still find ourselves very much as a planet, as a country, as a congregation, still very much in the wilderness of the unknown. Just think, if we were the Israelites, we would have about 38 and a half years to go before we would arrive into the Promised Land. Let's hope that history is not repeating itself quite that way. Last fall in the stewardship video, I talked about that wilderness and how in this time of a pandemic, we have been in ministry together. And yet was the phrase that I used to describe what we were about. That even though we are in various types of lockdown situations, yet we were still at Christ Redeemer Lutheran Church able to be the church for the world. And that has certainly continued in this year of 2021. As this year started off moving in a slow but progressive pattern to get this virus under control, with the arrival of those vaccinations and their availability coming around, it seemed like things were moving toward the new normal. Of course, as we know in this country, despite the widespread availability of that shot being available, many chose not to follow expert medical opinion and not get that vaccine. We also know that others, due to their health conditions and simply their young age, simply were not eligible for the shot. And unfortunately, the variants and mutations of COVID have now caused our current situation in which we find ourselves with much still unknown about the future. But hopefully, we are and will soon be back on track in the very near future, and that hope is not unrealistic. In this time of the pandemic, the church has been about ministry and outreach in some unusual but yet faith-filled ways. When I look back at these past 18 months, I'm amazed of some of the things that have occurred. I would like to mention a few of those and highlight them. The first thing I would like to start with is how during this time, when our facility was more dormant than usual, we've been able to tackle a number of improvements to our physical grounds and building. These, in no particular order, included an upgrade to our parking lot, a parking lot agreement that was implemented with the city with that cut-through to help with our rental agreement for parking with the new natatorium that Brecksville built. We did a major repair on our organ that we knew was coming down the line in the future, but we used this downtime to get it accomplished. We also solved a couple major water issues, including digging up at 2 different times the very front part of our church to get the drainage fixed and repair so that water was not seeping into our west walls. When the pandemic started, we were also facing a problem that we did not have water in our sacristy, which has also since been resolved. Additionally, we installed a new sound and video system that has brought a major upgrade to our worship services, along with much more reliable equipment. We've also handled some major repairs and improvements, including just recently the fire sprinkler system that impacted our restrooms and children's room in the lower level, and of course the cleaning of the brush and trees along Route 21, among other things. Having said all that, if you live in a house, you know that the work is never done. There are several other major aspects of our facility that we are taking a look at. Some of those major projects coming down the pike include a facelift to our gathering space, carpeting throughout our building renewed, a new configuration of our downstairs with the equipment and facilities that we have there, a meditative garden on the south side of our property be overhauled and renewed, especially since we suffered that disappointment of not being able to move forward with the columbarium. We also are looking at painting and repairing all the gray siding on the exterior of the building that is in so badly need of upgrade. This does not reflect the entire list, but gives you an idea of some of the things that are being discussed. We have recently formed a facility strategy team whose purpose will be to help us prioritize, plan, and give us an overall approach to these potential projects so that we can do so in such a way that allows us to tackle them with good stewardship, with an overall plan in mind, while also being keenly aware the unexpected maintenance issues still rise up. Related to all this talk about our physical structure, it indeed has served as an important part of our ministry throughout the pandemic. When the Red Cross literally had no place to go to collect blood donations, we were here. And not all that long ago, we recently opened up our building again to self-help groups. Our ministry to others beyond our walls certainly has continued as well, through Oasis, the Redeemer Crisis Center, and we are hopeful that we will have the Rise Against Hunger event in a modified way in October. We have also made outright financial donations to other ministry partners that have provided yet another way to extend ministry beyond our walls. And crazily enough, online worship and the availability of it and the ease of sharing it with others has reached many people far beyond just our congregation. I've received several words of thanks for our online worship, some from people I've never met. The ministry of this online worship will continue for the foreseeable future and will probably be around in some way beyond our pandemic concerns. However, in the ministry to one another, there is nothing like being together and being in one another's presence and seeing each other's faces. In July of this year, we held the delayed memorial service for Russ Hicks. That day, the sanctuary was overflowing with people with the unexpected great turnout. The church was as full as it had been for a worship service then Christmas Eve of 2019. It was an emotional event to see so many people present to remember a beloved member of our congregation. But it was also memorable because the church, for many of us, was physically together in person again. And for me, it reminded me of what has been prevented in this time of fighting a virus. Also, people in our congregation have went out of their way to reach out to one another during these times. I'm sure we have not done so completely or perfectly, but the attempts have certainly been there. We have been church to one another during these unprecedented times in various ways. And I want to thank you for all the giving of your time, of your prayers, of your financial resources that have made ministry happen as we look toward 2022 and our mission investment plan, our budget. I pray that you may be able to continue to be so generous in your support of this mission station for the gospel of Jesus Christ when the estimate of giving cards come out for you to complete. That Stewardship Sunday will take place on October 3rd. When the pandemic first started and so much was unknown, I did not know what would happen financially at our congregation to our giving here at the church. Therefore, when the PP loan became available, we immediately jumped in on all of that. And with the guidance of Lee Nicely, we got the ball rolling and we secured those monies and have since had that loan completely forgiven and turned into a grant by our government. In the end, however, while those monies were indeed helpful, it sort of ended up being a little bit of a message to me as, "O ye of little faith," because our giving has been strong in this pandemic. Quite simply, all I can say is thank you for keeping your congregation, your ministry, your community of faith financially equipped through these times. Also, thank you for your patience in all matters as we have striven imperfectly to navigate the ebb and flow of this world crisis from all aspects of ministry, and particularly for that of worship. And I would be remiss in offering a word of thanks for all your support if I didn't lift up our staff here at church. They have done things that are not in their job descriptions, things they've never done before, things that may even made them uncomfortable at times. But Cecile, Susan, Linda, Mike, Luda, Lori, and Jill have been faithful in their service to this congregation. And I particularly want to mention and lift up, even though in doing so may be dangerous of leaving somebody out, but I want to highlight 3 servants of Christ in this place. They have been invaluable to me and to you as members of CRLC. First, Linda Eckenbrecht. To be in this time without a music director, Linda has shared her gifts in worship that simply have gone above and beyond. And as an aside, we are in the process of interviewing for that new music director. Secondly, Jill Kubel, our parish nurse, has taken the health of our members and our care and ministry with them to another level. Quite honestly, she has made up for a lot of my shortcomings due to technology, filming, and editing time needs. And with her present visits and calls to you, she has certainly been a pastoral help, strength, and guide for me and for our church. And for those of you who have been a part of her ministry of outreach and concern, care, and compassion over this pandemic, you know exactly what I am talking about. Finally, I would like to mention Lori Siebert in the office. Lori does so much beyond her job description. Her care and concern for this place and this ministry is invaluable. Her work here only scratches the surface of her discipleship here. She makes me look good, and I am thankful for the many and various things that she does. You know, it's still somewhat unknown what the toll the pandemic will mean for the future of the church. Many are already writing and surmising that things will never be the same again in the parish, that certain ministries and certain people will not come back, that maybe some ministries will transform, and that others could come back stronger. However, at this point in time, we simply just do not know for sure how all of this will shake out. Of course, the context of each congregation means that things will happen differently. But we at CRLC will not be immune to all the negative aspects of a pandemic fall-off and the lack of being able to meet together regularly for worship and other types of ministry. However, I know the people in this place. I've had the privilege of being in the front seat of many of your witness and your acts of love and service. And so whatever forms of ministry may take in the future, I do know and trust in a couple of things. First, God is with us in this wilderness, and God will never forsake us, and the promised land will arrive. And secondly, I am privileged to be able to serve among a group of people who call Christ the Redeemer Lutheran Church their faith home. Knowing these 2 things, while not knowing every individual perfectly or completely, my uncertainty about the future, while that abounds for many of us, we are shaped even more by the witness together of God's grace, God's acceptance, God's love, God's forgiveness, and the sharing of the ministry of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Christ the Redeemer Lutheran Church, praising God, serving others. Thanks for watching.